A story, a surprising one. That is how we are going to start today. Salamun alaikum to all those who are going to watch me and listen me today, and to all those who will listen to this in the future, whenever the future might be. Let's start, as I said, with our story. 6 months ago, I am in the playground with my son. He's laughing, he's running, he's completely inside the moment. He's being silly with his friends under the sun. You know how kids normally are? Not quite the same way. Jaw tight, phone in my hand, chest compressed. My mind is busy listing every single thing that is wrong with me, with my life, with all of those things around me. Career stuck. People who don't deserve it getting promoted. Money not enough for the things that I want, things that I think I need, things that I require. I am tired, irritable. I'm wanting more so I can distract myself more. My son, he doesn't care. He is just running around. He's just being the crazy little kid that you would expect him to be. He has no idea what is happening out there. He is having fun. I check the time. Come on, boy, let's go. He, though, is not quite amused, but he stops mid-step and goes, Why? Why do we need to go? To go and get stuff, I say, standing up. We'll go out and I'll get you something as well. He frowns and he's puzzled. He scratches his chin. He looks at my phone, the really good, expensive phone that I've got, looks at our EV that's parked nearby. Then he looks back at his friends who are shouting his name. Hey, come on, from the slide. His eyebrows are still raised. He is still puzzled. He looks at me and goes, But Baba, I don't need anything. I don't need anything. I sigh. Mate, everyone needs something. He shakes his head. No, I just want to play. I just want to play. I shake my head. This little boy, he knows nothing. He's so little, he's so cute, he's so naive. But you know what? That's okay. I am here. I'm here to teach him. I open my mouth and then nothing comes out. Nothing comes out. There's a flash of realization, and now I see it. He has what I am chasing. Not things, not upgrades, not job titles, not status, satisfaction, peace, being in harmony with his surroundings, in the now. There's another realization as well. I have read this lesson before. I thought I knew it. I have talked about it. I've even taught it to others. It is something which is quite familiar. It is Islam. It's not the religion of rituals that gets paraded around as Islam, but the state of not being in conflict with the world around you, giving others peace. But now I see the other side that had up until now remained hidden from me. Islam, you see, is not just giving peace to others, being in harmony, in sync, in a state of no conflict with others. But there's another side to the equation, in that same principle of not doing harm to others and being in harmony with others applies to you as well. A Muslim is not just someone who harmonizes himself with others and removes fear from others, doesn't go to war with others. But a Muslim is also someone who is a Muslim to himself. A Muslim to himself. He is the one who bathes in serotonin. And one who's not a Muslim to himself, he is the one that keeps chasing dopamine. Right. Thank you for listening to this little story to set the scene in terms of what the Quran talks about this topic and also how that relates to this last year in which we have had quite a few YouTube sessions together, you and I. I would reflect on that. And I would, at the very end, like to come back to the story because the story isn't quite done. There's one more takeaway, there's one more moral, there's one more thing that I would like to talk about that I think should fill our hearts with joy, not the fear of the mullah, not the brimstone and fire breathing things that we hear about from the sermons, from the pulpits, but something that's quite remarkably, well, something that's quite joyous, that we should be pleased about, we should be satisfied with. That is the path towards the pursuit of happiness. But how many times do we hear about that? I say not enough. Right. Let's look at what the Quran has to say about this topic. This is a live session. I did advertise, by the way. I mean, I say advertise. I did put up the notices. That's the extent of my telling people on the Facebook page as well as YouTube. For those who are watching me now, as I will have always said, Assalamu alaikum to you once more if you just joined in. And to those who listen, I hope you take something away from today that's useful to you. I see in the comments that there are a lot of people who have already have made comments. I've had quite a lot of emails in the recent past few weeks as well, because I know I didn't speak much in English. But I'm here. I'm here now. I'm talking to you, and we're still in this year. We're still in this year for a few more weeks to come. Right. Let's come back to the Quran, and then I'll come back to the chat as well. And maybe if there are some comments, then I can refer and talk to them about them. By the way, I really like MMM. Yes, maybe I should play the guitar once more. Maybe one day I will bring it up and we will play it again on when we are live. Okay. What does the Quran say about the story that I mentioned? Does the Quran talk about that inner harmony and that inner peace and the pursuit of happiness? And how does that child come into play? وَقَالُوا لَنْ يَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةَ إِلَّا مَنْ كَانَ هُودًا أَوْ نَصَارًا. And they say, no one will enter the hidden realms except one who is Hud or Nasara. تِلْكَ أَمَانِيُّهُمْ. Those are nothing but their wishes. قُلْ, say, هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Say, bring your proof if you are truthful. Now here, the main part starts. I really want you all to pay attention. Bala, but man aslama wajhahu lillah, whoever sinks his orientation towards Allah with his system, wa huwa muhsin, and provides excellence to others, falahu ajruhu inda rabbih, their reward is with their Lord, Now this next part that's coming up, I really want you to pay attention to that, because we hear the first part of what I'm going to say, but we never listen to the second part. وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ. They have no fear upon them. That was the first part. Now comes the second part. وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. And they will not grieve. If I change the word grieve, they are not sad. They are not in that mental state where things need to be fixed because they are not at peace with themselves, because they are not happy, because they're not satisfied, because they're wanting things. Quran's message: fix what's inside you. Aslama man aslama wajhahu lillahi, who fixes himself, his orientation of how he looks at the world. That applies to you, to those around you. And as I said in the very beginning of that story, or at the end of that story, that applies to me as well. We have to fix what's inside of us. Another ayah, and I think this ayah is quite remarkable. How many times we've read ayat such as this one, and we never really quite grasp the meaning, the weight of the words, and what it expresses to ourselves, and how the Quran really touches on the nerve cell, the nervous system, this collection of competing priorities and feelings and raghabat and shahwat that makes up a human. فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ. So whoever Allah wills to guide. Now, by the way, Allah guides those who wish to be guided. I just want to make a really quick point on the side. This is not something that's pre-written. Whoever chooses the path, Allah's system is guaranteed to work for him. And the reverse also is true. Having said that, let's come back to the ayah. So whoever Allah wills to guide, in brackets, because the person himself wants to do it, yashrah sadrahu lil Islam, opens, expands his chest towards Islam. Islam, inner alignment, outer alignment, peace, towards a state where there's no war, internal or external. Now, what comes next is something that's quite surprising. You know how we often always go, oh, the opposite of Islam is a non-Muslim, right? Or in traditional circles, it's always a kafir, ya akhi, the kafir, ya akhi, ya azizi, ya sadiq, ya sadiqi, ayyu shakhsin la yaqulu shahada, anybody who doesn't say the shahada, aw shahadatain, or the two shahada, huwa laysa bi Muslim, he is not a Muslim, أنه كافر, he is a kafir. لا يجوز أن نتكلم معه كأنه مسلم, we are not allowed to talk to him as if he is a Muslim. That is how we treat them. So opposite for Islam, for us, seems to be by default a non-Muslim, a non-believer, a kafir, a mushrik. All of those terms get lumped together. But listen to this ayah. By God, ya salam, listen to this ayah. What is being presented in opposition to Islam? And what's the state of that person? وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ, and whoever he wills to leave astray, يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا, he makes their chest tight, constricted, suffocating. حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَسَّعَدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ, as though they were climbing upward into the sky, struggling for air. Does that feeling sound familiar? Is that something you have gone through? Do you know of someone who's gone through that? That tightness in the chest. Your innards, they are all twisted up. You're eating yourself out. You're in this constant circle of seeking dopamine for the sake of dopamine, for the sake of dopamine. And every time you get your hit, the next time, we know what happens. We want a bigger hit because what we got is no longer enough for us, isn't it? We are always climbing the sky, but we're always struggling, gasping for air. We are suffocating. Now that state is in direct opposition to the one whose outlook and chest is opened up towards Islam, because he is one who has harmonized himself with not just his outer attitude towards others, but also reflected that inwardly to himself. Let's get back to the ayats. كذلك, that is how. يجعل الله الرجس على الذين لا يؤمنون. In this way, Allah places inner corruption, friction, unrest upon those who refuse to spread peace. وَهَذَا صِرَاطُ رَبِّكَ مُسْتَقِيمًا. And this is the straight path of your Lord. What other sirat mustaqim we've been talking about? No magical thin as bridge that we have to cross on the day of the Al-Qiyamah. And the time that you cross this magic water that's out there being handed out only to those who say magic words. No, sirat of the Rabb, which is mustaqim, is doing stuff like this. Being in harmony, being good, not being in a state of war or harb with others or with yourselves. قَدْ فَصَّلْنَا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَذَّكَّرُونَ. We have laid out, marked out the signs clearly for people who remember, who connect the dots. Now listen to this part. Listen to this part. Really pay attention to this after. Ponder about this part when you have a chance. لَهُمْ, for them, دَارُ السَّلَامِ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. For them is the home of peace. The home of the peace. وَهُوَ وَلِيُّهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And He, Allah, His system, is their protector because of what they consistently do. Of what they do. How clear are these ayat? How crystal clear are they? What a fantastic message it is that the Quran gives us. And how twisted have we understood it always? How hard do we find it to convince others who have never really understood Islam? Oh, there was a prophet that came all of these many years ago in this backwaters of earth who couldn't read, couldn't write, but here's the book that we've inherited through our parents. And there is a whole cottage industry of rituals that you must also follow. And if you do all of this, and if you do them in a specific way, and if you wear your shoe, your clothes, first right hand, right arm, right leg, and enter the bathroom this way and that way, you do all of those things, brother, you become a Muslim and you become guaranteed to enter into Jannah and blah, blah, blah. What is that? Tilka amaniyuhum. These are just things that they say. This is what they just made up. The Quran doesn't say that. Quran is clear. Whoever has opened himself up to be guided, whoever wants guidance, whoever strives for guidance, whoever keeps his own self at the very basic stage of Islam with others around him and with himself, he is on the sirat of his Rabb mustaqim. He is in the gardens, the Jannah right now, because he, as I said, is bathing in the sea of serotonin. Dopamine it's not something that he's worried about at all. Right. Let's continue on. And this part, before I come back to the story that I shared with, I want to quickly talk about the way this year has been. I'll talk about the YouTube stats, what happened this year, how were my interactions with yourselves, and then I'll talk a little bit about how I have learned and grown in this past 1 year as a student of the Quran. And I'll talk a little bit about what I think is going to happen on the channel next year. And along with that, I'll cast an eye out on the wider scene. What does the community of those who follow the Quran what does it look like in English and in Urdu and in the Arabic worlds? I'd like to talk about that as well. Then we'll come back to the story and we'll wrap up our session neatly at that point. Let's continue. This channel that you are listening to me on has been around now for 4 years. Including this video, the total number of videos live and recorded is 171. 13,700 subscribers. Is that too many? Too less? I don't know. That all depends upon who uses the number in what capacity to judge the success of somebody or not. If you think this number is too low and you think this number should be higher, a question that I will pose to you is, what have you done to share the content to your people around you, to your family, to those who you interact with? Total times the videos have been seen, 1.5 million. Languages that the content is presented in is 3, English, Urdu, and Arabic. I did think about presenting and talking in Spanish as well, and I might very well do that next year. But up until now, I've only spoken in 3 languages on this channel. There's also a Facebook page, and on that Facebook page, there are about 1,000 subscribers. And yes, anybody from Pakistan who wants to ask or wants to know or has been wondering, I remain banned in Pakistan. The Islamic Republic of Pakistan would have nothing to do with a channel like this. And I am still not allowed to have my videos presented there. I have no viewership in Pakistan, sadly. Just those who I think get through the VPN systems. Right. Before I continue, I think there might be a little problem with StreamYard today right now. And that might be why I'm not seeing all of the comments. Let me just quickly go to the YouTube video, because I know that I can see some comments are coming through, but I'm not seeing them here. Right. Yes. Yeah, maybe a little bit of Sindhi as well, and a little bit of Punjabi as well. Though my accent, I've been told multiple times, is absolutely atrocious. I am definitely somebody who can dabble in a few languages, but not greatly in any single one of them. Master of none, jack of all, as the saying goes. Okay, let's come back to what we're talking about. And just going to bring this page up one more time. Right, okay, continuing on. Here are the videos that were recorded this year. In fact, I should go one back. So on the right-hand side, if you're watching it, all of these videos here are the ones that were live. I went live on them. You can see that there are videos in English and Urdu. And on this page here are all of the videos that I spoke about, that I talked and I recorded pre-hand. And these are in English and Urdu and Arabic. So recorded videos here and live videos that I did before. You'll see very clearly that there's only one theme that I've talked about throughout the year. And the one theme has been, what is a Muslim? What is Islam? What is Iman? Who is a mu'min? Who are ya ayyuhalladhina amanu? And once we understand the real meaning of these terms, these critical terms of the Quran, how are we meant to interact with them? What happens to all of those orders that have come in the Quran for Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu? And by the way, those that have orders have never come to the Muslims, and there's a reason we've talked about. But what do we do with the orders that have come to the Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu? What does terms like Iman billah mean? Etc., etc. I think this one year, as is very obvious, my focus has been completely taken up by this very important concept, and I hope that I've done some justice to this in terms of my understanding and presenting what I've understood to you as well. And as I said in the very beginning in that story, I am still continuing to learn from what the Quran says as well. Okay, personal growth. And this is something I do every year. I've probably done this more in Urdu videos. So if you are watching this in English, if that feels a bit strange because you haven't seen it, well, it's because I'm probably doing this in English for the very first time. Recap, a summary of the whole year that has been, and some of my thoughts in no particular order of how I think I'm growing, what my thoughts are, and how I see the world going in the future for myself and for others as well. Number one, and this is probably a very true realization, that makes me very humble, and I'm quite happy to share. I know enough now to know that I still know very little. I have been on this journey to understand the Quran since May 2019. That's about 6.5 years. So I've gone past a bachelor's and a master's. I'm probably halfway through my PhD in Quran, so to speak, but I'm still a baby. I'm not even a teenager yet. And that realization keeps me humble. I know very little, and I try keep myself to what I do know, because I know I don't know a lot. This year, as I said before, transitive versus intransitive verbs in the Quran has been a major discovery for me. It has really opened up my eyes to what the Quran says. What is the difference between Salim and Muslim, and how is that the same? How is the same principle between Farih wa Mufrih? This has been something that's truly opened the Quran for me. One does an action to himself versus one does an action to something or somebody else. When the Quran uses them and we understand them that the right way, very complex terms such as Muslim, Mu'min, Mushrik, Muti', Muhsin, all of them open up. All of them open up. And we really understand what the Quran is saying in a very clear, very particular, very articulate manner. And I'd like to talk more about these terms as time goes on in the new year. This past 1 year, I didn't expect that many live calls as I did have. We had quite a few live conversations in Urdu/Hindi, and people did come online and we did talk. Not that many in English, but maybe if there is still interest, we might continue to do that next year as well. Moving on, I am still not in a race to create content for the sake of it. Eyeballs and likes and shares and making money, this is not what drives me. And I am only going to work on things, as I've always said, that interest me. That means topics that I think, sadly, are boring for me, I'm not going to talk about them because for me, that takes a lot of time. Yes, I'm still banned in Pakistan. I did talk about that. I'm also thinking that in the next year, you might seeing me pop up in some of the other channels as well, in all of the 3 languages that I can speak in. It could need not be receptive or supportive audience. In fact, I'd probably want to go back now to hostile audiences, to hostile people who question Islam, no matter what variety, who have got major doubts on the veracity of the prophets or the Quran or the message, or things that I believe that by going to their channels or their platforms, I could clarify for those who follow them. That is something that I would like to do. If you have got suggestions for people who are either interesting or are interested, I would be very happy if you connected us. I'd like to get back into this because I think that's the part that probably I'm beginning to miss a little bit now. It's good to have supportive audience, but it's also good to have people that you get to spar with intellectually, to really come to terms with the points that you need to burnish out more in your understanding, because that forces you to be really reflective, not in the mode of jidal for the sake of jidal, but for the sake of really understanding. One last comment that I'll make before I go into the next stage, and that's quite a surprising one, because I thought we'll get over this by now, and I talked about this 2 years ago. AI, artificial intelligence, LLMs, large language models, doesn't matter which one you pick up, whether it's Grok, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini, or even if you host your own Hugging Face model onto your own MacBook, for example, and run it locally, almost all of them are still mouthpieces of the Sunni Shiite religion. They continue to use terms the way those guys use. And I think anybody who still relies on AI or still wants to use AI for understanding or translating or discussing the Quranic concepts, please beware. You're not going to get the right picture. And I'm actually quite surprised. I won't name names, but there's a particular older gentleman who I am personally shocked by, who had really good content in English, who really put a lot of thought in what he was going to talk about. He's beginning to use a very neutered model of ChatGPT, and that model only reflects back to him what he wants to hear. And based upon that model's very feeble understanding of the Quran and Arabic, he just presents those videos on his channel. There's no original thought left. And I think that is, all respect to what he's done, that is something we should all be very careful of not falling in the trap of. That's my advice. That's my observation. Take it as you will. Continuing on, I'd like to talk about the scene. The scene as in how I see the Quranic community in today's world right now, how I think it has grown in this year, 2025. And then based upon this, how I think it's going to grow into the future as well. In Arabic, I'll start with Arabic. I think in Arabic, we've got the most important and daring work that's being published right now. There are so many good, popular channels popping up every single month, it seems. We've got so much debate. We've got so much tanweer. We've got so much tanawwa. We have so much diversity of thought in the Arabic world that this is truly mind-boggling. Some really complex topics are being talked about and discussed in there, and we don't have an inkling if we don't speak that language. What we have in English and Urdu is not even the shadow of what's happening in the Arabic world. On one stage, this is truly remarkable. On the other hand, it's quite sad as well. But on the good side, there are channels in the Arabic world that have either crossed 1 million subscribers already, focused entirely on the Quran, or very Quran-centric, or very closely approaching the 1 million subscriber mark. And these, I think, are very positive signs that the Arab world, that us generally, Muslims who are not from that area, look up to as our leaders, that those people are so engaged with the Quran, that they are refusing to just close their eyes and swallow the pill that has been sold to them up until now by the traditional mullah. Those people are escaping, and the results will come down to us in English and Urdu as well. But Arabic, for sure, has completely, the whole scene, especially in this year, I think has been transformed. And if you do speak Arabic, do share your comments and your thoughts with me as well. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And if that is the case in Arabic, why? Why do you think this has really exploded in the manner that it has? On the negative side, English channels. One I did mention, and once more, I'm not going to name names because that just gets taken the wrong way. But as I mentioned, one of the channels has just gone down because of the over-reliance on AI, a very feeble model that just feeds back and reflects to that person what they want to hear. And that is just not good. That is just not right. And that's just sad. The only other big channels that I know, well, a couple of them are all about regurgitating the same content over and over against the mushriks. So there'll be video after video after video of critiquing this person, that person, that person. But it's the same thought that's being talked about all the time. It's the same circle that's being repeated. There's nothing new that's being generated. Again, all power to them. Everybody does their own way. Then there's another big channel, and frankly, I think since that channel and the owner of that channel went into this really conspiratorial mindset where this is the age, this is the magically blessed age where for 1,500 years we were all waiting for this time, and now the curtain has been raised, and I bring through to you this new methodology that nobody else could see before, etc., etc., etc. And I see things, and I've got people in my mind saying things that no one else hears, and based upon that, I'm going to present whatever I'm going to present, and present that as evidence, and mix A, B, C, D, and say no one can question this. That channel has also dropped quite a bit. What I really want to say is, I'm not seeing, sadly, in the English-speaking world, that level of maturity, that level of refinement, that constant growth that I'm seeing in the Arabic world. And if I was very firm on a few people, and if you knew some of those people, this is, I would say, coming from a place of love for me. I'm being in the state of Islam where I'm not seeking harb. I'm not seeking to cause them discomfort. I'm presenting an idea, a thought, in the hope that they would take it the right way, that they would take if they see value in it, and leave it if they don't. End of the day, as I've always said throughout this series of Islam, we are who we are, but the least we can do is be peaceful to others and not cause them grief. Urdu channels or Hindi channels, that is the sad state. That is a very sad state. The discourse is still mired in really basic talks between some really superficial groups. We've still got a group of ex-Muslims debating the traditional Muslims, and the topics never change. You guys you guys surely know what those topics are. I don't have to talk about them. Same thing over and over and over again, as if the snake keeps changing its own tail and never gets tired. Then you've got the traditionals, just talking about their own traditional stuff and how this hadith is correct and that hadith is not right, etc., etc. Same thing. I'm quite disappointed that even the Quran speaking circle, I still see the same things, the same themes being mentioned over and over again. Right. Having said that, and that might come up as a bit of a contrast to those who are listening in, but I am overall optimistic. I'm really optimistic. And this is not just something I'm saying to make myself happy or satisfied or content or to make you feel good about it, but I genuinely believe that the future is very bright for the followers of the Quran. And when I say the followers of the Quran, even those who follow the message without realizing that they are doing it because it's written in the Quran. The message of the Quran has been universal, but I definitely see its message in terms of what the text itself says growing even more in Arabic, and then filtering down to English and then to Urdu. And I am very personally satisfied to be able to testament myself, to testify to myself that yes, I was part of that initial wave, that I was on the initial group of people who waded in these languages and started looking at the Quran, talking about it. I do believe that this is the future. Right, let's return to the story. But before we do, I cannot see the comments, which is really sad. I have no idea what's been happening in the comments. So I'm going to quickly go into the YouTube video and see if there's any comments from people that I should answer. Right, okay, I can see Quran, Real Islam, Mr. Uvaid, and there is somebody, Casper from Pakistan. Yeah, I think there's definitely a problem with YouTube today. It's just not showing comments. Regardless, we're going to move on, and I will get back to the story that we had begun. Still remember the story? Let's read this ayah. Yeah, and I think this will really neatly, nicely tie up the whole thing. Allah says in the book that He gave to us so we can seek guidance and not be sad and be able to pursue happiness. The message is clear. Listen to it with an open heart. Wallahu, and Allah, yad'u ila daris salam. Allah is the one who calls, invites to the house of peace. The house of peace. وَيَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ, and guides whoever wants, إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ, to a straight path. Dar as-Salam. This is not a magical house of gingerbread walls and rainbows all over and candy strewn all across the pathway. That Darus Salam exists in the real world when you offer non-violence to others. You make your Darus Salam here in this life as well. You make your own Jannah right now, right here. But that Darus Salam also can exist in your mind, in your own consciousness, in your own nafs. You can be satisfied. You can be content. You can be one who offered Islam to others, but also one who offered Islam to his own self, who made himself in sync with what he wants, with what is possible, and with what is trying. We, in other words, have to be like my son. I invite you to be like my boy, to be the child who lives in the world fearlessly. He tries everything. He enjoys. He relaxes. He's happy. He's content. He doesn't want harm for others. He doesn't want harm for others. He just wants to go and play with his friends. He just wants to play. And if he sees there's a problem with his friends and they can't play because of problems, you know what every single kid does, like my boy does? They go and help each other so they can all go together and play. Wallahi, thumma tallahi, what a life that is. What a life that is. That Darus Salam, towards which Allah calls you, calls me, calls us, if and only when we start following the path of the child that leads us towards the Darus Salam. Before I leave you, I want you to ponder this ayah one last time with me, then afterwards yourself. Allah, the creator of it all, He invites you, He wants you in the Darus Salam. Why? Because He is like that parent who doesn't want his children to be sad. He doesn't want you to be sad. He wants you to be in a place where وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ, where there's no fear upon them. وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ, and they are not sad. They're not sad. Allah yad'u ila daris salam. Allah invites to the Darus Salam, the house of peace. وَيَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ, and guides whoever wants to be on this path to the right way, and He guides them. Let's all of us, me and you, be like the child and be happy and pass happiness. Until the next time, Salamun alaikum.